This is Local Edition. I'm Brad Pomerance. We're joined today by Eric Gurna. He is the president and CEO of LA's Best. What exactly is LA's Best?
LA's Best is an after-school enrichment program. We work with over 25,000 kids every day in close to 200 schools in Los Angeles.
Los Angeles City.
Yep. Yeah, and we're based in the mayor's office.
Right. So it's a city program. It's not a private program. It's not a nonprofit program run by an outside organization.
It's actually both.
Oh, it's
both.
A
really unique model. It's a public-private partnership that was created under the vision of Mayor Bradley in 1988. Mayor Bradley was, he's mayor of a city that doesn't have authority over the school system, but he saw the need to help kids after school. And he saw the resource of public school buildings that are community buildings. Right?
And they're empty, or they were at least after 2:30, 3 o'clock.
Yeah. And we've got, so many young people, college-age students who could use a great part-time job and learning to work with kids, and many of them wanting to become teachers. And so he created the program in 10 schools. And so it still is, we're a nonprofit that's housed in the mayor's office.
But it's a little bigger than 10 schools now.
It's 193 schools.
I was going to say.
Yeah.
And as I understand it, I don't mean to be a sycophant, but as I understand it, it's quite the program. I mean, the success of LA's Best is hard to deny, and some would argue it's a model. Is that fair?
Absolutely, yeah. And it actually was a model for Proposition 49, which was passed by the voters to increase funding, state funding for after-school programs.
So why has it been successful? Really dig deep and explain to us, what is it about LA's Best that has allowed other cities, states, nations to look at it and say, let's try to duplicate that?
I think it's a combination of a few things, as most successful programs are. The first thing is that we love all kids, and that we really, the staff of LA's Best, over 2,000 staff, really have the heart and compassion to care for children and to help kids find their passions, find their interests, and the idea that it's only fair that all kids should have a safe place to be after school.
And I'm glad you mentioned that, because I've learned, I think the cliche is an idle mind is the devil's play. And so what you want to do is you want to keep kids busy. If they're not busy, they get in trouble. And so you're creating an environment to enrich them and keep them busy.
Yeah, and more than that, we're creating an environment where they can discover their passions. If they're into robotics, we have a robotics program. If they're into sports, which so many are, dance and drill team, and the arts, and on and on.
And what ages do you target?
Age 5 to 12.
Okay, so it's elementary and
elementary school.
Up to middle?
No, just elementary school. There are great programs in middle schools.
And who can participate?
Anyone who is enrolled in the schools that we're in is eligible to enroll.
So you go to the program in your local school.
Yeah, and the schools that we're in average around 90% free reduced lunch eligibility.
I see.
So for the most part, these are kids and families who wouldn't otherwise get access to these kinds of resources and might not have a safe place to be after school.
Let's talk about some of the challenges, though, that LA's Best faces, as well as other after-school programs. So we've been talking a lot on this program about the gas tax. And we had a gas tax that was set in 1994. And there was nothing in the legislation that caused the gas tax to increase because of inflation, essentially. So the gas tax in 94, we were getting the same dollars in 94 that we're getting today. I think that that's how you're funded as well. You got dollars in 2006 with no inflation kickers.
Right. And so we've been funded at $7.50 per child per day for the past 11 years.
$7.50 per child.
Yeah, which is a remarkable value for what averages around 20 hours a week for each kid. And every kid every day gets help with their homework and supper and a wide array of enrichment activities at $7.50 a day.
So in 2006, we were about to hit the recession. We didn't know that yet. We were on the verge of it. So if you and I were speaking now and it was 2011, I could understand why it would be hard to push for an increase. But it's now 2017. We've been out of the recession for a good couple years, and yet we haven't seen a bump. I understand right now you're looking to Sacramento to provide for additional funding.
Yeah, I mean, in the intervening years, inflation alone is something like 19 or 20%. But beyond that, the minimum wage movement, which is a public mandate, has increased the cost of operating these programs dramatically just in the last few years. So just last year alone, the wage hike in the Los Angeles Unified School District affected us by being over $1 million hit per year, just because the wages went up a bump.
And you get no additional funding.
And we get no additional funding. So if you
can
keep
you
getting,
raise funding?
We do. We vigorously raise private funds.
But still.
But it's just not enough to keep up. We're facing over $1 million projected deficit next year.
And that's just LA's best.
That's just LA's best.
Right.
And our peer organizations across the state, programs like Think Together and After School All-Stars and Woodcraft Rangers, they're all facing similar deficits.
What about Prop 49?
Prop 49 was spearheaded by Arnold Schwarzenegger before he became
I remember that. Yes, of course.
And he championed the cause of after-school programs being so key to public safety, being a return on investment for taxpayers, and being critical for the educational success of kids.
But what about funding?
And so it provided, it's the envy of all the other states. We have over $500 million invested in after-school programs. But it's tied to the number of kids that are served. So if we're still serving the same number of kids for the same amount of money and the costs have gone way up, the whole system is now at risk because we're facing $1 million deficits.
So Prop 49 doesn't have a kicker in it?
There's no cost of living adjustment, no kicker, as you put it, in Prop 49.
That's my very simple way to say it. It's my layperson.
It's flat funded.
Yeah.
It passed with bipartisan support, and very recent polls even show that there's widespread support of this. So we're just asking the state of California to increase the funding really incrementally so that we can remain open.
Right.
For
so
our
we're
families.
looking. So you're at $750 per student per day.
That's right.
Is that right?
Yep.
So we're looking at potentially an increase of 50 cents per day, $1 per day. It doesn't seem like a lot, but obviously it adds up. As we speak today, we don't know what's going to happen in the state legislature. Events are moving quickly.
Yep.
But I would think that you have some momentum behind you.
We've got so much support. I mean, just in the city of LA, the city council, the school board, the Los Angeles County of Education, LACO School Board, LAUSD School Board, the LA District Attorney, the Chief of Police. In
some ways, they could be the most important.
Absolutely.
The DA and the Chief of Police.
The Chief of Police and the Chief of the School District Police just co-authored an op-ed in the Los Angeles Daily News last week in support of this. They're all behind this.
Okay, so we'll, I'm not a partisan, I don't want to take a position, but we hope that it all works out in Sacramento. So let's just presume that it all works out.
Yeah.
There's also the question of the federal government.
Yeah.
Because when we look at the federal side, I know that the feds have funded after-school programs for many years, but the new administration seems less interested in funding after-school programs.
Beyond less interested, I mean, they came out and said they're going to zero out the over $1 billion in after-school funding federally. In the next, that's the current plan, is to zero it out. Now, I don't believe that that'll happen because there's such widespread bipartisan support in Congress for after-school programs. But what really hurts is that the current presidential administration announced that they wanted to zero it out because there's no evidence that these programs are successful. And this is just baloney. I mean, I have a literal stack of evaluations from UCLA in my office, evaluations we've commissioned by UCLA that show that after school, when kids participate in after school, they graduate high school at higher rates. They're far less likely to be involved in juvenile crime. When they participate in elementary school, they do better academically, even in middle school, and have higher attendance in school.
We'll have you back.
I'd love it.
Okay, his name is Eric Gurna. He is the president and CEO of LA's Best, a fine after-school enrichment program based in the city of Los Angeles. My name is Brad Pomerance. I'm so glad you're with us on Local Edition.